It's the first time we've really had that all simultaneously. We've had pandemics, we've had things of that nature, but this has truly changed the environment in which kids are growing up. I'll give you one tidbit that's sort of interesting is we looking at the children's play, very early childhood children's play in and out of the digital environment. And we found, as we expected, that in the US, the more screen time kids have, the less they played. In Mexico, the more screen time kids had, the more they played. So in their culture, it's not a zero-sum game. It's not either sitting in front of the TV or playing. So they would like have a Batman cartoon on, and they would be wearing, doing dress-ups and role-playing of Batman. So I think that one of the really interesting things that'll come out of this is not only looking at the temporal relationship over time of what kids are doing with screens and how they're doing physically, mentally, and socially, but also to see where we can learn from other cultures and attitudes, and we can crowdsource essentially the healthiest way to live with the screens that are all around us.
Now, I want to talk about blue light, and are there specific dangers related to blue light on sleep, creativity, and children retaining what they learn from school?
Well, the real effect is actually on sleep. The first you mentioned, blue light, which is what emanates from screens, is early morning light. We are diurnal animals. We hunt during the day and we sleep during the night. So when we look into blue light, it arouses us. Not to mention the fact that whatever the content we're looking at is further arousing. And so what we see is that kids who take screens to bed with them in the form of smartphones or have screens in the form of television or laptops end up sleeping less and also sleeping less well, because they often have notifications or pings that happen in the middle of the night, and actually 26% say they actually wake up to respond. So the sleep gets disrupted. Sleep is so essential during the early years of life, and particularly during adolescent years, which is the second fastest growth spurt of their lives. And that is what limits the creativity and other brain functions, is that they're not getting enough sleep. They're sleep deprived.
Dr. Rich, does this also apply to adults as well? When they go to sleep looking at their phones, does the blue light impact them? And also when they're waking up and checking their phone or snoozing their phone?
Absolutely. We all need our sleep. We have a lot of good research that shows that not only do we need a certain amount of sleep, but we need to complete sleep cycles. And oftentimes, what happens is those sleep cycles start late, and our circadian rhythm actually is very powerful. Our day-night rhythm, and it will be overcome in some ways by by the light that we're looking into, but that disruption will sort of echo, sort of ripple through the night. And so the other piece of it, quite frankly, is when we look at those blue screens early in the morning, that's actually consistent with early morning light. The problem is the content that we're looking at, because we're often looking at overnight news or whatever that is not always good news, shall we say.
Now, you've helped schools in the Boston area and as far as Utah to have phone-free learnings and to put a positive spin on keeping phones out of schools, avoiding the word ban. Why should students not have phones in schools, and how are school districts and parents responding to your advice?
The main reason for having phones not in schools is, let's think about what the school's role is, what their goals are. And I see their main goals as twofold. The first being didactic learning of math, science, history, literature. And for those, smartphones are a distraction. I've had any number of teachers tell me about looking out at their classroom and their students randomly smiling at their knees while they're in class. The second, and to my mind, as a pediatrician and a child developmentalist, the even more important role is social emotional learning. this is the first opportunity kids get to be individuals in a society of their own making. So they learn who they like and who they don't like, and how they express it, and how they take on challenges, how they respond to failure and try again. When you have mom or dad in your pocket pinging you and saying, "How'd you do on that quiz? Do I need to talk to your teacher? What's going on in the playground?" Then they never get the opportunity to work those things out for themselves. They have mom or dad there like Jiminy Cricket on Pinocchio's shoulder, talking at them the whole time. They don't get to learn those people skills that frankly will serve them throughout their lives far more than the arithmetic they're learning.
That brings me to my next question is, what's your phone tips for parents, and should they have phone-free home time as well?
Let's think about what the time at home is about, right? There should be phone-free times, certainly the bedroom at sleep time, certainly an hour before sleep so that they don't have that melatonin suppressing blue light and they can get drowsy and go to sleep in a natural way. But other times like dinner, meals together, sitting down without devices, and having a family meal every day is the single most protective thing you can do, not just for their nutrition, but also for their mental health, where they learn to debrief and decompress from the day, where they share funny stories or difficult things they're working on. And, that's practicing the original social media conversation. And so I think that those two times should be sacred. They also should remember that they cannot multitask. The human brain is not capable of doing two or more things at the same time. What you're doing when you have your homework and a screen going is rapid switch tasking, moving back and forth between those two things. And what that does is it disrupts the learning process. We have experiments, we have scientific research that shows that when you do that, you make more mistakes, you take longer to do the work, and most importantly, you don't retain what you've done because you've sort of skated over the surface of it so that you could cover more territory. Those are really critical things.
Dr. Michael Rich, thank you very much for sharing your insights here today.
Thank you.
And that's all we have for you tonight on the Capitol Report. Thank you for watching, and for round-the-clock original news coverage, visit us at ntd.com/live or download our NTD app. From the nation's capital, I'm Jack Bradley, and from all of us here at NTD, have a nice weekend.